Okay, so let's move on, everyone. We're halfway there. Okay, we're in the middle of the menu creation process at this stage. So what are we going to do now? What's the best thing for us to work on at this stage? Well, in the last class we worked on the resolution buttons, didn't we? Let's create the function for them to open for our instruction menu. Okay, and then we'll create the function for the sub menu of the about as well. So we'll set it up, and then when we click it, the exit menu will slide down, and we'll also see the animation here. And yeah, I think that'll do. Let's do that for now. So this is what we've seen so far. We've been able to replicate it on many other features. So let's start using the instruction button. So what's going to happen here? When I press instructions, it's going to open up the image that we've created. So I've selected this instructions button for when I click it. Okay, so there's our event. Great. So I add this to the instruction comments right about here. Make it bigger. Cool. So when I click this, it's going to start an animation. And which one is it going to start? The instruction animation. So we get that. There we go. There's our reference for that, our variable. And we'll pull out and press play animation. Cool. And we want it to play forward. So how will it work? Well, if you click it once, it opens. If you click it again, it's closed. It's going to do a flip-flop. Okay. So we'll get a flip-flop here to play the animation. Nice. So I'll move this over here so we can use the other option in the flip-flop as well. Okay, so on B, what does it do? Well, it's going to do the opposite, isn't it? The reverse. So we need to just plug that into here and change the direction to reverse. Nice, so we've got our forward and reverse. That's it. Let's compile and test this to check that it's working. So it opens up and it closes. You know, come on now. How simple was that, right? Really easy. So that's done. Let's work on the sub menu for our about button. So simply just copy the other one. So I can use this button structure, which is similar to what we've used before. Control C, Control V. And I'll place it exactly where the exit button is. So it's placed at 70 and 120. So it will occupy the exit's position, right? So now I just need to rename it, and we'll rename it about site. Because this, for example, you can use to describe your website, couldn't it? So the text will be the website address. It'll be dviz.com.br. So when it's clicked, it will open up, and in this menu, it will push down the other text. The exit button will go down, and it will reveal the website. So that being the case, we also need to raise this a bit. It should be a bit bigger. I think the fonts, is the font correct? Let me just check the font. Okay, it's 280 where the font size needs to be. Yeah, the font size needs to be 24. There we go. So it's much smaller now. That makes more sense because it's a sub menu. I use the bind feature on this one. Okay, so that gives us more options in our text. So just as we did before in using the color, we need to do that. So we'll call this color site, like the color of the website, and or the color of the text for the website. I'll do the same thing, but now the button is to be overlapped. The button to be overlapped is the about site. So we drag that in. We use a branch here. So when it's hovered, we've got that condition of the branch. So it's either hovered or it isn't, true or false. So we can create the two conditions from that. So I'll create two variables, the true or the false. And we can split the pin, remember, okay, because it's a structure type node, and we can change the color one on the other. great. And we've got the red featured here as well. Okay. Nice. So that part is done. And oh, look. Oops. Yeah, okay. Let's just put that to there. Okay. So there we go. We're done. So we've done the functions for this, so when the mouse is hovering over it and the color that is going to change. Okay. So now I also have a scale animation here as well. I think that might work nice. So I'll make an animation for this button too. So I can create another one here. I'll call it about site anim. Cool, that's it. And we'll animate that. So let's just line it up. Cool. So it's in the right place. Let's edit the about site on the timeline. Add a track, transform track. And I'll do it same time, 0.25 of a second, which is the standard that we've been using in this animation. And we're going to affect the X scale. Okay, and it's going to be 0.25 and then 0. All right, so I'll edit this pivot position here as well. Is 0. Cool. So same as we've been doing before on all the other animations. Cool, so that works nice. And I'll set its default position as well, which needs to be 0 on the scale. Let's make sure we're picking the right one. That might help. Okay. So initially it's going to be hidden. And then we're going to see it when we press it. Perfect. So we've created the animation. We've changed the color. We've customized it that way. Now we'll create the event. And when I click the about, all of this will all then come together. So what should we do now? So the animation should run. The exit button should slide down a bit. Okay. So that's what we need to make sure is happening. So let's do this now. And I'll do the same thing as I did with the other events. Okay. So let's take a look. Let's rename this to resolution events. And actually, this name doesn't make sense. Let's call it resolution movements. That's better. All right, so now we'll do the same for about. I'll create a custom event and I'll name it open about menu, because that's what we want it to do. We want it to open it. Okay, cool. So let's create the event. First thing you need to do is to relocate the exit button to the outside. So I'll get my exit button. There we go. We'll get that. And we'll link that to the set render transform. And we'll link that up to our events, our custom event. Cool. And we're going to move it. We're going to move it 40 pixels down on the y-axis. Nice. Okay. And then I'll play the animation and get the about animation that I just created. So we pull out and press play. And we'll link these two. You're getting the hang of it by now, I'm sure. So this is the button for when we open the menu. I click it, it creates the event, etc. So we need to do the opposite now. Close about menu. Okay, and you know what to do here, don't you? So we'll do everything above in reverse. But we'll also add the delay so we don't have any problems as well, okay? So we'll get about. And then we need to get our set render transform. Oh, play animation. Get play animation. Play sites. We're going to reverse it. Cool. And now we'll move the exit button. And we're going to set this here. We'll copy that. Set this to a position of 0. Its original position. Cool. Perfect. And I'll create a variable 2 as I did before. So we have the conditions to sort out any problems as well that might arise. So about pressed. And we'll set that one up here. We'll set that. So that's whether it's been pressed or not. We'll get another one and we'll put that here for when it's not pressed. Okay, so my conditionals are done. I'll comment on them all. And obviously I'm doing this quickly because we've seen it all before, but we're just, there we go. Just almost there. I'll create the event for when I click it. To do so, I'll go to the About button. So for when we click the button, so there's our button for our event for clicking it. I'm going to place it in the About section. Okay, and it's going to open and close the same thing we had before. Okay, I'll create my flip-flop. There's our flip-flop. And this is a little different. Yeah, it's a little different. So I'll create this here, and that's going to be the About event that's going to open. And then we have the closing event. There we go. Nice stuff. So you're starting to see now how big the blueprint is that we've created. Okay, but don't let it scare you. Okay, let's push play. So our resolution comes up, the instruction come up, About comes up, and I think they're a little too close, aren't they? So we just need to fix that. So we can move it so they're a bit further apart. It's too close at the moment. So let's, instead of 120, I think I'll try 100. Okay, let's preview that. Okay, it looks better, I think. Maybe it's too much. Let's try 110, something in between. Here we go. About, looks nice. So it changes color as well. Okay, there's obviously nothing associated to it at the moment, so we can't click it. But let's leave it as it is for now. All right, guys. So moving on, it's all looking much more sophisticated now, isn't it? So we've already created this event, the click events, but now we're just playing with the buttons, I know, but it's quite important to understand how they work and get them to look how you want them to look. We didn't create any functions per se at this stage. The buttons don't really do anything yet, but they're enough to get us started. So let's end the class now before we get too deep. But actually, before we go any further, let me show you something else. What's happening here? So the resolution here and the medium and low, I can check them, can't I? But if I overlap the instructions, see what happens? So it messes up everything else, doesn't it? Like it doesn't understand that it's open. So if I open it, it moves right. So why is it clashing? So when I mouse over it, it executes the set render transform. Do you remember? So it's on the About button. So it's going to move as I move the mouse over it. Okay, look, it's got on hovered. So there's nothing on the Y axis. That's why it leaps as it does. So this created a problem for us because if nothing's open, then our resolution or About, then and all these positions are fine. If nothing's open, then we're going to have these problems. If I open them though, we'll get a second scenario. So if I hover here, I'll move there. So we need to tell it what it is we want it to do. So we've got a little bit of a problem here, but we can fix this in the next class.